cue. Welcome back. You're watching Buy Now, Sell Now. Let's take a look at the queries that you're going to cue me. All right. Sorry for that technical snag. We are live and we're back to take all of your queries. A lot of you have tuned in on social media, and in fact, I'm going to start with the first few queries that we have. The first one that I see that I want to take is on SBI, and I'm coming to you on this one, Sharmila. This is SBI bought at levels of 400 an average price. Would you hold on to this investment? This is from Bala, or would you look at something like an ITC or Tata Motors?
The choice of this alternate stocks is very interesting, but I would actually hold on to SBI. I think that the numbers were okay, and within the sort of PSU space, this continues to be a favorite stock. If he's bought at 400, I think he can continue to hold the stock, providing he's a long-term investor. Between the two alternate stocks suggested, we have one stock which has been sort of like a non-mover, and if you're active on social media, you will be aware of all the memes that you have over the price of ITC, how it just refuses to budge. But it's a stock I hold, in fact, and I quite like ITC. In fact, all the three stocks being discussed, I do hold: SBI, ITC, as well as Tata Motors. So actually, I like all three, but which is why I think that if you bought SBI at this price, you can continue to hold it.
All right, the next query is coming in from Manjunath and wants to know specifically about the specialty chemicals segment. He wants to know if we want to buy for 1 year, what could be order of the preference, whether it will be Bajaj amines, alkyl amines, Deepak Nitrate or Chemcon Specialty. What's your take, Kunal? Which of these counters in the specialty chemical space would be worth looking at with a 1 year horizon?
These stocks which you've mentioned, like Balaji Amines and Alkyl Amines, Deepak Nitrate, these stocks have done pretty well for themselves. Deepak Nitrate is a stock which I think looks more sustainable. The trends are more sustainable over there, even though the stock is now going through a sideways correction. But then historically, that stock has tended to have more legs to move up higher whenever there has been an overall uptrend in the indices. So I think in that aspect, this could be a good candidate for a buy on dips. Even Chemcom specialty, I think even that stock in the last 1 week or 10 days, I think has moved up into some stronger degree of momentum. The volumes have also inched up higher. So probably from a short-term play, you could look at a short-term bet on Chemcon as well. If it manages to cross about that 500 mark, and in fact closes about that 500 mark, we could be looking at maybe a short-term trading opportunity of 10-15% odd. But really from a longer-term view, I think what you should ideally do is we should look at a buy on dips kind of a candidate, and I think Deepak Nitrate, alkyl amines could be the stocks which you can look at from a longer-term view. From a short-term view, I think Chemcon is what you can probably look at for a trade about that 500 closing.
Okay, Sumit has got a question on Radico Khaitan, and I'm coming back to you, Kunal. Bought at levels of 570. What would you do based on what you're seeing on the charts?
I think it's a very interesting play. The brewery stocks have done phenomenally well over the last, I think, 1 week, 10 days. Many of these stocks have recovered. Even Radico, I think, has recovered from 600 levels to 720, 725, where it's currently trading. So it's been a good stock. The sector overall is buzzing quite strongly. It is in the thick of momentum as well. So I think in that aspect, I would advise to continue to hold on. And if you're looking to maybe add further, then maybe wait for a correction towards that 680, 675 mark. I think that's again a good zone. In fact, today also the stock managed to break out about that 670, 675 zone. So I think if the stock manages to come back to that kind of a territory, it could be a good buy on dips candidate further at those levels.
All right, the next query that we have is actually coming in from Vardhaman Shah. He wants to know what's the long-term view coming in for Abbott India. He wants to look to enter fresh into this particular counter. Sharmila, what's your take on Abbott India over the long term? Does it make sense to actually look to enter the stock at these levels?
Obviously, I think that if he's a long-term investor, it doesn't matter really at what price you get into stocks like an Abbott, because, they have sort of historically been stocks that have rewarded investors. But the theme that is playing out really honestly in pharmaceuticals just now is sort of more towards other play. You have the whole vaccine play going on where people who are going to manufacture vaccines are looking at that sort of an upside, or even specialty chemicals that you spoke of a little while earlier. There are companies which are sort of shifting their view away from generics and getting into that. So from that perspective, if he hasn't already bought, I think it might make better sense to say buy a Laurus Labs at this point in time, or even some of the other plays like maybe a Dr. Reddy or a Sun Pharma. So yes, I think if you're a long-term investor, definitely you could buy Abbott, but probably given the way things are positioned at this point in time, these could be some alternate names that you could look at.
Okay, I want to come back to you, Sharmila, on Punjab National Bank, and this we've got a question from several people. In fact, we've got one from Anjali, we've got another from Babatosh. What is the view on Punjab National Bank on the fundamentals? We've got a few brokerages that have actually come in and cut their target price on the counter. Are you still expecting some kind of a recovery going forward?
Well, again, a stock that I hold and I continue to hold it, but the numbers weren't particularly, I think they missed analyst expectations on certain counts. And of course, they have their whole NPA issues still left to tackle. So I do think that you shouldn't buy the stock at this point in time, but people like me who have the stock, I think will continue to hold. I continue to hold, so I would recommend to hold on the stock from a long-term view. But yes, the numbers didn't meet the mark really. I mean, the kind of expectations that you had built in on the profitability, also the NPA picture. So there were 2 or 3 parameters on which the numbers didn't look good. So I wouldn't buy the stock.
All right. Just taking a detour from the queries, actually there's an important DHFL resolution case that the Mumbai bench of NCLT will be passing the orders. Basically, they will be passing orders on 16 matters, including the crucial decision on the pyramid resolution plan. My colleague Priyanka Iyer is here with all the details of what should we actually expect in this final order. Good morning, Priyanka. Take us through what sort of cases is the NCLT actually going to hear today? Are we expected to see the final order come in as well on DHFL resolution?
The Mumbai bench of NCLT has listed the pyramid resolution plan in the DHFL case for orders today. They will finally give either a thumbs up to the plan or reject the plan. That is something that we have to watch out for. Very important, if the plan gets an approval from the NCLT, that is a final approval required for the plan to be implemented and for Piramal to officially take over DHFL. Remember, there has been a lot of back and forth when it comes to Kapil Vadhavan's settlement offer that had come in. NCLT asked for it to be considered, and NCLAT put a stay on that NCLT order, and now Vadhavan has moved the Supreme Court against the NCLAT order. So that is something that we have to watch out for. But NCLT had said that, NCLT can go ahead and pass an order. Nothing really will stop NCLT from passing an order on the pyramid resolution plan, which is exactly why NCLT can take this step. Just to take a look at the resolution plan by Piramal, it had received a majority of votes, that is 93.65% votes from the COC in January. RBI also gave their nod in February, and the total amount stands at 37,250 crores, in which there is upfront cash amount of 17,700 crores and 19,550 crores will be paid via NCDs with a 10-year tenor. The top lenders to DHFL who will have a sigh of relief if this plan goes through in the NCLT are State Bank of India, Bank of India, Canara Bank, Union Bank of India. These are just the top lenders with the highest exposure. The total exposure of financial creditors stands at 87,082 crores. So there are other host of banks which have an exposure to DHFL, and debenture holders form the largest share of that, of 46,389 crores.
All right, to those of you who are tuned in on YouTube, we seem to be having some bit of technical issues. I can't see the chat anymore, so I will go to the questions that I had seen right at the start. In fact, One of you had asked, Sumit had asked about Affle, and you pointed out that it was consolidating according to you for the last 4 months. Kunal, I believe that he is invested in Affle, but I do not know what his buy price is. He's asking, at this juncture, should he consider exiting or should he continue to hold?
No, I think you can continue to hold. I think the stock is, yes, as I think the viewer also rightly pointed out, that it's consolidating since last 4 months. I think it hit a high of 6,000 plus somewhere in the month of Feb end and March beginning, and from there on it's going into a 10 to 15% kind of a range as such. So it's a natural and normal kind of a range bound behavior for stocks which move up so steeply in a short span of time to go through more of a prolonged consolidation. Now it's possible that this consolidation may last for some more time. I wouldn't be surprised that maybe over the next 1 or 2 months you might see the stock going into a bit of a further drag as well, maybe coming back towards that sub 5,000 mark as well. But from a longer term play, I think these time-wise corrections should actually be taken as good contra buying opportunities. And I would suggest that if you've already bought, and assuming if your buy price is on the higher side, then your averaging strategy should be that you should look to average, if the stock specifically comes back below that 5,000 mark. So if time is not an issue, then I believe averaging sub 5,000 mark would be a good strategy for stock like Affle.
All right, the next query that we have is from Srinivas Rangaraju. He's saying he has 60 shares of PNB Housing, which he purchased at an average price of 1,200 rupees per share. He wants to know what should he do now with this particular holding. Kunal, what's your take coming in on PNB Housing? Srinivas has 60 shares, which he's purchased. The average price is 1,200 rupees per share.
Well, I think we all know the kind of news flow which is surrounded towards the stock, and which is why I think we've seen such a phenomenal recovery for PNB Housing, this month itself. So I think if I'm not wrong, it's up almost 65-66%, this month. Even the previous month, the stock had seen a similar kind of a jump as well. So it's the second consecutive month. These are the kind of ingredients for strong breakouts on momentum charts. So if you're holding on from higher levels, I would suggest that you can look to average, assuming if the stock gives you that opportunity and opens up that circuit filter. But net, I believe that the last 2 months of strong price movement indicates that there's much more room on the upside for the stock to go, at least in the medium to long term.
Sharmila, we've got a question from Nino Kurvilla about a company called CMP Silk. It is currently trading at levels of 318 or thereabouts. The question is that he's been holding since levels of 160 with an expectation of future EPS of 40 with price to earnings multiple of 15. Now, obviously, I'm not expecting you to give me a comment on those multiples, but what can you tell us about holding the company?
I honestly don't track this at all, and from whatever I can see in terms of valuations, it's very, very richly valued. So I'm sorry, I don't think I can take this query.
Fair enough. I will go across to Kunal then. Kunal, I know the question is based on fundamentals. Would you suggest on the technicals that he continue holding, or do you think that he should book a little profit considering that he's made double his initial investment?
No, I think you should look to, yes, Alex, I think the viewer should look to book out some profits over here, for these kind of stocks. There is always a phase in the market where the mid-cap in the market, mid-cap, small-cap in the market, they tend to go extremely buoyant, and when you make such strong bout of gains, I think it's always prudent enough to either trail your stop losses or book partial profits over here. So I would advise partial profits, booking on stock like CMP Silk at current levels.
All right, our next query is actually coming in from Jay Kishen, and he is actually, one second, I think I've just lost that particular query of his, but yeah, I believe that he has a question on IDFC First Bank. He's saying he has 100 shares of IDFC First Bank, which he's purchased at 57.8 rupees per share. He wants to know what sort of a target should he look at if he wants to hold this particular counter for the next 6 months. Kunal, what's your take coming in on IDFC First Bank?
See, I think it's a very interesting counter. Did exceptionally well from those March 2020 lows, risen up from 20 levels to 70, 69. which it tested to be precise, and then from there it went through a consolidation phase. It's getting ready for one more round of up move. So the question is that when will the stock give that breakout about that 70 level? So I think if time is again of not a concern for the viewer, then I would suggest holding on to the stock and post that breakout of 70 whenever that comes by, say over the next 3 months to 6 months plus. Then you could be looking at the stock making an all-time high or dash towards an all-time high of 80-85 kind of a territory. So a gain of almost 20-25 rupees further could be achieved on IDFC first plan, provided the stock breaks out of that 70 hurdle.
Here's a question for you, Sharmila, and this one's from AnjaliSharma. She's holding shares of Moil, but I do not know what price she's holding at. She would like to know the long-term target for Moil, and she intends to hold it based on the fundamentals. What do you have to say about this?
One of the stocks is doing well today on the back of good numbers, and I think maybe closer to about 220 would be the target that, given the current results as well as valuations that I would have on Moil. So I would continue to hold the stock.
Next query that is coming in is from Mr. Ramesh MR, and he's saying that he's holding 500 shares of Indus Stars that he's purchased at 254 rupees per share. He's planning to sell the stock, but he wants to know what sort of levels should he look at. Should he continue to hold on to it, or should he go ahead and sell the stock? What's your take on Indus Towers, Sharmila? What should Mr. Ramesh do? Stay put with particular holding, or go ahead and sell it, or kind of what should he exactly do with it?
I think he can continue to hold the stock, because I think from what I can see in terms of numbers as well as valuations there, it does seem to be a bit of upside left on the stock. It is getting closer to those levels where possibly you could look to book out. But I would give it another 20-30 rupees from current levels. So I think at the current price, you can continue to hold on to Indus Towers.
The next question is from Mahendra Patnaik. He's got 1,000 shares, Kunal, of NCC at levels of 31. Do you have a view, first of all, and should he book profits at this juncture?
It's NCC, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I think it's an interesting name. I've been tracking this stock, specifically from the time when I remember it was in FNO, I think in 2018 odd. A rough patch as such. It's making a strong comeback for itself. The recovery is quite strong. In fact, the breakout for that stock has already been achieved, where it managed to break back about that 3 years of downward sloping trend line. So this seems to be a very good a possible candidate of a very good up move over the medium to long term. If you are holding on to the stock, then I would advise a further hold. It's possible that these be prone to a higher degree of volatility, but when you typically see such kind of breakouts of these multi-years of falling trend line, it results into a stock which goes into very strong periods of uptrend from a medium to long term. So I think purely on that base, I would suggest a hold on the stock.
Okay, sorry.
Coming in from Rajan, he's saying that Kunal, I go ahead, Alex? Alright. Rajan has a query. He's saying that he has 100 shares of Lupin, which he's purchased at 1,210 rupees per share. He's asking what's the target for the next 6 to 12 months. So, Kunal, what's the take coming in on Lupin? Makes sense to hold on to this counter. What sort of target should Rajan look at over the next 6 to 12 months for Lupin?
Well, absolutely. I think you should definitely hold on to this stock. I think that's what I would advise, because the breakout which had happened for Lupin exactly a month back, I think seems to be a very strong and a durable breakout. It's changed its range. So I think that's the best part about the breakout. The earlier resistance of 1100, 1130 is now actually acting as a good support, and the stock is moving into 100 pointer range on the upside. So from being at 1130 as a resistance, the resistance has now moved up to 1230 levels, where you see the stock consolidating post a breakout, which could probably happen in the next maybe a week or two odd. I think the range could get shifted higher and maybe move on to even 1300, 1330 as the next set of target. Now, these are classical trends which happens into stocks, I would advise a hold on Lupin.
I want to come to you, Sharmila, on this next one. We've got Dhananjay, who's bought Anjani Portland Cement at levels of 300. The stock is currently trading at 323, but it's a micro cap stock. So what I will ask you is, it's had a tremendous run over the last year or so. It's more than doubled. Would you bet on this, or would you bet on another player, a larger player in the cement space?
Well, the results seem to be good. So I've never really tracked this stock, and I do agree that perhaps the larger cement companies would make more sense. And in terms of, if you're holding on from a longer term perspective, the kind of results that they can give, and also the kind of price that they can command in the market, because the cement market as such is controlled by a couple of players, and they are the ones which drive the price. And it also depends on which geography you cater to, etc. So, a micro cap stock could have sort of lumpy earnings if they are placed in a geography that doesn't do as well, or and that could sort of impact their bottom line. So I do think that a stock like a She Cement or a Ambuja Cement or an Ultratech Cement do have the edge there. But from what I can see of the numbers and valuations that this stock is trading at, it seems good.
Alright, the next query that we have is from Shanmuga Sundaram on Railtel Corporation. He has 300 shares which he's purchased at 126 rupees per share. He wants to know whether he can continue to hold on for the next 6 months. Kunal, what's your take coming in on Railtel Corp, a fairly recently listed company? If you could share, if possible, any targets for this particular company.
So yeah, a very recently listed name, has very short history. I think just about few odd months of price pattern history. But on the short-term charts and very, very short-term charts, I think the stock is heading towards a breakout. It's already confirmed a breakout about that 135, 136 mark. So this was the resistance for the stock in the previous month as well. In the month of May, the stock took some time to consolidate, and now it's confirming a breakout. So this could be a big breakout for Railtel Corporation as well. And again, as I said, that the chart is limited, but whatever short-term chart one could be looking at, then I think the potential target range or the next target range for the stock could be approximately at 160, 155 range. So it could turn out to be a good bet if you can hold on. I think 155, 160 is what you can look at as a possible target.
Okay, Isaac has got a question on Symphony. Coming to you on this one, Kunal. At current price, would you buy?
So I remember tracking the stock quite long enough back. The stock did exceptionally well for a period in 2014 or 2015 odd. Gone up, I think, almost 10x. At that point of time, and it's gone through a consolidation. Now this is a huge consolidation for Symphony, because if you look at the last 4 years or 5 years of chart patterns, the stock has been in an absolute range. So it's possible that the stock may continue to remain in a range, but these kind of stocks are the ones which should be held on from a longer term view. So if you have a longer term time horizon, then I would suggest a hold or a buy on Symphony at current levels. And if that breakout happens yet again, it could probably lead the stock back towards that 1800, 2000 mark as well.
Alright, the next query is a Twitter query from Parse, but he wants to know, should I buy Mazagon Dock shares for the longer term? Sharmila, what's your take coming in on Mazagon Dock? Makes sense to buy this particular counter for the longer term. Definitely, we're seeing a sharp actually up move come in in that stock today. It's at an all-time high.
Oh yes, this again I think is a sort of a recent listing, and which is why I think it's. So I think you need to just look at the overall business rather than looking at the price, etc. Because all-time high, in a market like this. But yes, I think given the business that they're in, one can continue to hold on to the stock, because I think, as I said, I think the prospects for a business like this look fairly decent going ahead. So I would continue to stay in it.
Okay, Kunal, this next question is very interesting. At least I think it is. We've got a question from Ashish Pandey on Gland Pharma, and after seeing a gain of 35% in 2 to 3 months, is what he's saying. He's asking, is it wise to exit at this point, or is it wiser still to hold? I suppose it would be dependent on how much he was expecting to get when he invested in it, right?
Absolutely. But again, I think it's a very recently listed name. I think if I'm not wrong, just about 7-8 months or 9 months of price history for Gland Pharma. But again, even in that kind of a time frame, the stock has done pretty well for itself, from being at 1800 levels to now being at 3000, 3200 kind of a range for the stock. So it seems to be that the stock pattern is coming out to be trending. It's coming out to be quite strong, consistent in terms of volumes. But as I said, since the chart history is limited, wouldn't be able to more project on the long term. But whatever the chart history has been shown the last 7-8 months, or I think it looks very, very formidable. So I think if you have a longer term time horizon, I think you should definitely hold on.
All right, this query is coming in from Sangeeta, wants to know what sort of unlock name can one look at currently to invest in. Sharmila, what sort of which sort of themes actually would make sense to look at currently due to the unlock that is underway in various states across the country? So which companies would you rather suggest, or rather which themes would work well, whether it will be hospitality or aviation? We've got a view on aviation, but what's your view on the other ones?
Yes, so I think if I were to continue the same theme, the obvious sort of themes that come to my mind is one, of course, we discussed that people would want to go on a holiday. So aviation was one space we spoke of. Then I think hotels could be an interesting space. I think we can see Indian hotels, in fact, go up and trade today. They've done, I think, fairly decent numbers, even given the current lockdown, etc. So I think that's an interesting stock to look at. I think once again, in terms of home improvement, could be a theme that people, could have held off certain work they required to be done around the house or whatever, given the fact that there were those constraints in these last 2 or 3 months. So whether it's paint companies, whether it's ceramic companies, stocks like that could do well. Again, I think footwear and stocks that are, that sort of slightly lower cost FMCG names. I think that again is something would be an interesting reopen theme. So those would, I think, be broadly the themes that I would look at as a reopen trade.
Okay, let's get in the high risk and low risk ideas then. Kunal, I want to start with you. What do you have for us today?
I'll suggest two buy calls. The first one, which I would be suggesting from the a bit of a high risk candidate, is a buy on Bharti Airtel. I'm expecting that this stock would should be heading towards a breakout as such, and in fact trending move finally after quite a bit of time. So would suggest a buy on Bharti Airtel. Targets to be kept at 580, stop loss at 525. And the second would be a buy on Ultratech Cement. Many of the cement stocks are buzzing quite strongly. I've been very bullish on Ultratech on the medium to long term as well. And I think even at current levels of 6,700, 800 approximately, I think it could turn out to be a good bet for a target of almost 7,200 on the upside. So would suggest a buy with the stop loss to be kept at 6,600.
Sharmila, coming to you on your high risk and low risk ideas, what do you think is a good buy at this point?
My higher risk idea is Jindal Steel and Power. What we are seeing is that their numbers are good. They had a focused strategy towards cutting debt, and they're moving well, in line with that. The risk, I think, comes from, first of all, how price of steel, etc., move in months ahead. And number two, the fact that they sold their power business, the market didn't like that, the price at which they're talking of selling their power business. So that, I think, could be a bit of an overhang. But overall, this is a stock that I like, given the fact that the global outlook for steel continues to remain strong. So this could be a stock that could be bought with a target of 500. The low risk idea is Gujarat Gas. We've had an excellent set of numbers, Q4 numbers from Gujarat Gas. And overall, there has been a push towards using gas increasingly as a preferred sort of a fuel. We are seeing a lot of industry, especially in that Morbi, etc. region, which have been asked to shift to cleaner fuels, and the shift is towards gas. So this could be a stock that could that I like, both from the fact that their numbers are they've done good numbers even in a lockdown sort of an environment, and that the outlook remains strong going ahead. So this again could be a stock that could be bought with a target of closer to 700. Both are sort of long-term buys.
All right, so those are the high risk and low risk ideas coming in from both of our experts, Kunal as well as Sharmila. Also, thank you, Kunal and Sharmila, for joining us on the show, giving us your take on Indigo as well as resolving viewer queries, sharing your tips also with our viewers this morning. All right, on that note, we'll slip into a break on this edition of Buy Now Sell Now, but stay tuned, more on the other side, so don't go anywhere.
Co-powered by LG Air Conditioners, all in one, one in all.
He knows the market trends today and has mastered them over the last 15 years.